We are often told that enlightenment is a distant peak, a state of pure being that requires arduous climbing, years of discipline, or some cosmic unlocking of hidden potential. It has been romanticized in countless teachings, veiled in the mysteries of Eastern wisdom or the promises of Western self-help movements. Yet, what if the truth is far simpler, far closer than we ever imagined? What if enlightenment, that elusive and revered state, has always been ours, only forgotten, veiled by the very nature of existence itself? The journey is not so much an ascent, but a process of remembering, of peeling away layers that obscure the innate truth. In this reality, time is but a construct, a fleeting illusion that gives us the illusion of progression and growth. From the moment we are born, we are thrust into a world designed to distract and distort, to make us believe that enlightenment is something to be sought, something to be achieved. But what if, like a dreamer waking from a deep slumber, we could realize that the light we seek has always been within us, dormant but alive, waiting patiently for us to acknowledge it? This is the paradox of human existence. We search for meaning, for truth, and in doing so, we inadvertently create a vast labyrinth of complexity around us. We become entangled in the threads of illusion, the belief that happiness is something outside of us, the conviction that we must become something more to be worthy, and the weight of time pulling us into a future that is always just out of reach. But at the heart of this cosmic dance, at the center of this swirling vortex, is a truth that lies beyond time and space, a truth that is timeless and ever-present. You are already enlightened. You are already that which you seek. But like a brilliant light obscured by fog, your true nature has been clouded by the layers of conditioning, belief, and perception that have woven themselves into the fabric of your daily life. The process of awakening is not one of gaining something new. It is a process of stripping away the illusions that obscure your inherent truth. It is a return to a state of wholeness, a remembrance of who you truly are, beyond the ego, beyond the limitations of the material world. This awakening is not reserved for the few who have ascended the heights of spiritual mastery, nor is it something that requires special techniques or advanced practices. It is inherent within every single being. It is a part of your nature, a facet of your very existence. But like the most delicate flower waiting for the right season to bloom, it only emerges when we are ready to see it, when we are ready to shed the weight of false identities, of fears and doubts, of external validation, and recognize the truth of our own inner light. The fog of illusion thickens the deeper we get lost in the narratives of our lives. We come to believe that we are separate from one another, separate from the divine, and separate from the universe itself. This separation is the greatest illusion, the idea that we are isolated, that our consciousness is limited to the confines of our bodies, our thoughts, and our experiences. But in reality, you are the universe, and the universe is you. The moment you remember this, the moment you realize the interconnectedness of all things, the moment you return to the knowing that you have always been enlightened, you will awaken to a life of profound depth and meaning. To understand this, we must first let go of the conventional understanding of enlightenment. It is not an achievement, not a goal to be attained, or a prize to be won. It is a state of being, a remembering of your true nature. It is a reawakening to the essence of who you have always been. You are not separate from the divine. You are a reflection of it. This truth has been embedded within you since the beginning of time, waiting for the moment when you are ready to embrace it. Imagine for a moment that the most profound truth, the deepest wisdom, is not something you need to search for in books, teachings, or external sources. What if it is a hidden treasure, buried deep within the core of your being? It is only through introspection, through shedding the layers of conditioning, and through letting go of the pursuit of external validation that we can begin to uncover this treasure. In the process of this discovery, we are not becoming something new. We are simply returning to what has always been. The key to awakening lies in understanding that this journey is not about seeking something outside of ourselves, but about returning to the center, to the stillness within. The true wisdom we seek has never been lost. It has only been obscured by the veils of perception and belief that we have allowed to shape our reality. This is the profound, almost paradoxical truth. You are not seeking enlightenment, you are remembering it. You are rediscovering the truth that has always resided in your soul. So, let us embark on this journey together, not as seekers of something external, but as rememberers of what we have always known. For the awakening process is not one of becoming, but of unbecoming. It is the shedding of the false identities we have constructed, the dismantling of the walls we have built around ourselves. It is a return to the simplicity of being, to the wholeness of our true nature, to the realization that we have always been connected to the divine, always been enlightened, only momentarily forgetting amidst the distractions of the world. To understand the notion that you are already enlightened, you just forgot, we must begin by untangling the layers of illusion and misperception that obscure the clarity of this profound truth. Enlightenment is often perceived as a distant ideal, a peak that must be climbed through rigorous effort or some transformative experience. But in this new light, enlightenment is not a destination. It is the essence of who you already are. It is not something to be earned or attained, but rather, it is something to be remembered, unveiled, and lived. The core of this teaching invites us to look within, to turn our gaze inward, for the answers we seek lie not outside of us, but within the very fabric of our being. At the heart of this idea is the fundamental concept of oneness. This is the key that unlocks the door to understanding. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, everything is interconnected, and every form of life is a reflection of the same divine energy that pulses through the universe. We are not separate from one another, nor are we separate from the divine. The illusion of separation is one of the most deeply ingrained misconceptions of human consciousness. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to see the world in terms of distinctions, self and other, right and wrong, mind and body, life and death. These dualities create a fractured sense of reality, where we perceive ourselves as isolated beings struggling to find our way in a world full of confusion and complexity. But the truth is, there is no separation. You are not an individual isolated from the whole, but an inseparable part of the cosmic dance. Just as the ocean is made of countless waves, each wave is inseparable from the ocean itself. Similarly, you, as an individual, are a wave within the boundless ocean of existence, an expression of the same underlying essence that animates all things. This is the first key to unlocking your inherent enlightenment, the realization that you are a part of the vast and eternal whole. You are not merely a single, isolated entity, but a reflection of the divine energy that flows through all life. Another core theme of this idea is the nature of perception itself. The mind, in its natural state, is like a mirror. It reflects whatever it is given. However, this mirror has become clouded over time by the dust of false beliefs, judgments, and conditioning. As a result, our perception of reality becomes distorted. We see the world not as it is, but through the lens of our preconceived notions, our fears, and our desires. This distorted lens creates the illusion that we are separate from the world, that the divine is distant and unreachable, and that we must strive to attain something that is beyond our grasp. But what if we could wipe the dust from the mirror? What if we could clear the lens through which we perceive the world and see it in its true, untainted form? In that moment, we would recognize that the divine is not separate from us. It is within us, and it is all around us. The moment we stop trying to grasp for something outside of ourselves, we begin to recognize that what we seek has always been with us, waiting for us to open our eyes. This is the second key to understanding your inherent enlightenment. The realization that your perception of the world is not fixed or absolute, but malleable and fluid. It is shaped by the beliefs and assumptions you hold about reality, many of which are unconscious. Once you begin to recognize these illusions, you can begin to shed them and see the world with a fresh perspective. And in doing so, you will come to realize that the very nature of reality is not separate from you, but a reflection of your inner being. The third core theme centers around the idea of the present moment. We live much of our lives in a state of constant striving for success, striving for happiness, striving for enlightenment. We look to the future, hoping that one day we will arrive at a place where we feel fulfilled, where we feel whole. But the truth is, the present moment is the only place where true enlightenment can be realized. Enlightenment is not something that will happen in the future. It is something that is already available to us, right here, right now. We spend so much of our lives caught up in the web of time, constantly projecting ourselves into the future or dwelling on the past, that we fail to realize that the present moment is the only moment that truly exists. The moment we begin to bring our awareness to the here and now, to fully embrace the present moment, we begin to reconnect with the divine essence that is always present within us. Enlightenment is not a far-off goal. It is a state of being that is always available, but only if we are willing to let go of the illusion of time and step fully into the now. The final core theme revolves around the transformative power of surrender. To truly awaken to the truth that you are already enlightened, you must let go of the need to control, to fix, to achieve. The ego, that part of us that seeks to define itself through accomplishment and identity, is often the greatest obstacle to awakening. The more we identify with our thoughts, our beliefs, and our external achievements, the more we reinforce the illusion of separation. But when we surrender, when we let go of the need to control and simply allow ourselves to be, we open ourselves to the flow of divine energy that is always present, always guiding us. Surrender is not about giving up. It is about letting go of resistance. It is about releasing the tight grip of the ego and allowing yourself to be carried by the current of existence. When you do this, you begin to align yourself with the natural flow of life, and you start to remember that you are already part of the great cosmic dance. You are already enlightened. You simply need to stop resisting and allow the truth to reveal itself. These core themes, oneness, perception, the present moment, and surrender, are the building blocks of understanding that you are already enlightened. They form the foundation upon which you can begin to see beyond the illusions of separation and recognize the truth that has always been within you. As you begin to embrace these truths, the fog of illusion begins to lift, and the light of your true nature shines through, illuminating the path before you. To truly grasp the profound reality that you are already enlightened, you just forgot, we must venture into the realm of symbolism and allegory, for the truth is often communicated not through direct explanation, but through metaphor, story, and imagery. Throughout human history, sacred texts and timeless myths have conveyed the mysteries of existence in ways that words alone cannot capture. These stories, though often veiled in the language of the unconscious, speak to us in the language of the soul. They reveal to us the deeper truths that underlie our experience, truths that transcend the confines of logic and reason. Consider for a moment the myth of the prodigal son, which speaks to the journey of self-discovery and return to the source. The younger son, in his desire for independence and adventure, leaves the safety and warmth of his father's house, seeking fulfillment in the world. However, after squandering his inheritance and enduring hardship, he returns home, humbled and repentant, only to be welcomed with open arms by his father, who celebrates his return as though he had never left. The father's unconditional love is a metaphor for the divine presence that remains unchanged, ever patient, and always ready to embrace us, no matter how far we wander. The son's return symbolizes the act of remembering, of returning to the truth of who we are after having forgotten it in the pursuit of worldly distractions. In this story, we see reflected the core message of, "You are already enlightened, you just forgot." Just as the son never ceased to be the father's child, even when he was lost in the world, so too have we never ceased to be the divine expression of consciousness. Our journey is not one of becoming, but one of returning to the truth of our oneness with the divine. The prodigal son did not need to earn his place in his father's house. It was his by birthright. Likewise, enlightenment is not something we need to acquire. It is our birthright, our true nature, waiting for us to remember. Another powerful symbolic narrative comes from the myth of the phoenix, the mythical bird that is consumed by fire only to be reborn from its ashes. This story speaks to the process of transformation and renewal. The phoenix, in its death and rebirth, symbolizes the destruction of the ego, the self-imposed limitations and illusions that bind us to the material world, and the subsequent awakening to a higher state of being. Just as the phoenix rises from the ashes, so too do we rise from the ashes of our former selves when we shed the layers of illusion that obscure our true nature. Enlightenment is not a linear path, but a cyclical process, one of death and rebirth, of surrendering the old to make way for the new. The fire of transformation burns away the false self, revealing the radiant essence beneath. In this myth, we also see the theme of forgetting and remembering. The phoenix does not remember its past life. It is reborn anew with each cycle. Similarly, we forget who we truly are when we enter this world, and the process of awakening is like the phoenix's rebirth, a return to the essence that has always been within, yet obscured by the ego and the limitations of the physical world. The cycle of death and rebirth is not to be feared. It is an essential part of the process of enlightenment, a purification that leads to greater clarity and wisdom. Consider, too, the allegory of the cave from Plato's Republic. In this profound story, prisoners are chained inside a dark cave, facing a wall. Behind them, a fire casts shadows on the wall, and the prisoners, unable to see anything else, believe the shadows to be the entirety of reality. One prisoner is freed and comes to see the world outside the cave, where the sun shines brightly and everything is illuminated in its true form. At first, the freed prisoner is blinded by the light, but over time, he comes to realize the vastness of the world and the true nature of reality. He returns to the cave to free the others, but they resist, unable to comprehend the truth he has discovered. The cave symbolizes the world of illusion, the narrow, shadowed reality that we perceive through the lens of our ego and conditioned beliefs. The shadows on the wall represent the false realities we create in our minds, the distorted images of who we are and what the world is. The journey of the freed prisoner mirrors the process of awakening. When we first step out of the cave of our limited perception, the truth can be overwhelming, almost blinding. But as we grow in awareness, we begin to see the world in its true light. The process of enlightenment is not easy. It involves questioning everything we have believed, seeing beyond the illusions, and accepting a deeper, more expansive truth. In this allegory, the idea of forgetting and remembering is central. The prisoners in the cave have forgotten the true nature of reality. They believe the shadows to be real, as we believe our egoic identities to be who we truly are. The freed prisoner, upon stepping into the light, remembers the truth of the world and attempts to share that truth with others. But the others, still chained in their beliefs, resist the truth, much as we resist the truth of our own enlightenment. The allegory calls us to recognize that our perception is limited, that we are living in a cave of our own making, and that the journey to enlightenment involves stepping outside of that cave and embracing the truth of who we are. Each of these symbolic narratives, the prodigal son, the phoenix, and the allegory of the cave, reveals a key aspect of the process of remembering our inherent enlightenment. They show us that the journey is not one of acquiring something new, but of returning to a state of purity, wholeness, and unity with the divine. The themes of forgetting and remembering are central to this process. We come into this world as beings of light, yet we forget our true nature, entangled in the illusions of the material world. The journey of life, then, is a journey of remembering that we are not separate from the divine, but an expression of it, always enlightened, always whole. These stories remind us that the path to enlightenment is not about striving or seeking, but about recognizing the truth that is already within us. The phoenix does not have to search for its own fire. It is always within. The prodigal son does not have to earn his place in the Father's house. It is his by birthright. And the freed prisoner does not have to discover a new world. He only needs to remember the truth of the world that has always been there, waiting for him to see it. The realization that you are already enlightened, you just forgot, is a deeply profound and philosophical truth, but it is one that must eventually be integrated into our everyday lives. While the metaphysical aspects of enlightenment offer us a cosmic understanding, the challenge lies in translating this understanding into practical actions that can enhance our daily experience. Enlightenment is not a distant, abstract concept. It is a way of being that can be embodied in every moment, in every interaction, and in every aspect of life. But to do so, we must break down the walls of separation and illusion that keep us trapped in the cycles of struggle, fear, and limitation. At its core, the practice of remembering that you are already enlightened involves letting go of the ego, the false sense of self that constructs identities, clings to outcomes, and defines itself in opposition to others. In the modern world, we are constantly encouraged to strive for more, to prove our worth through achievements, possessions, or social status. This constant striving creates an illusion of inadequacy and reinforces the belief that we are not enough as we are. However, enlightenment is not about achieving more. It is about realizing that we are enough as we are in this very moment. The first step in integrating this understanding into our lives is to cultivate a deep sense of presence. Most of us spend our days either dwelling on the past or obsessing over the future. We are rarely fully present in the moment, and when we are not present, we are disconnected from the truth of who we are. The present moment is where life unfolds in its purest form. It is the only moment in which we can access the divine flow, where we can remember that we are part of the eternal now, always connected to the source of creation. One of the simplest ways to practice presence is through mindfulness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment, allowing ourselves to fully experience whatever arises in our field of awareness. Whether we are eating, walking, or having a conversation, mindfulness helps us return to the present, where the truth of our being can be felt. In these moments of presence, the illusions of the past and future dissolve, and we begin to sense the profound peace and stillness that are always within us, waiting to be acknowledged. This sense of presence is not limited to the quiet moments of meditation or solitude. It can be applied to every action, every interaction. Imagine engaging in a conversation, not with the intention of impressing or controlling the outcome, but simply to be present with the other person. When we speak from a place of presence, we are no longer trying to project an image of ourselves or get something from the conversation. We are simply allowing the flow of energy to move between us and the other person. In these moments, we experience the interconnectedness of all beings, and the barriers that separate us from one another begin to dissolve. Another practical way to integrate this truth into our lives is through the cultivation of self-compassion. When we realize that enlightenment is not something to be earned, but something that is already within us, we begin to treat ourselves with greater kindness and understanding. The harsh self-criticism that many of us carry around, believing that we are not enough, that we need to change, or that we must prove our worth, becomes an obstacle to remembering our true nature. Enlightenment is not about perfection. It is about embracing the fullness of who we are, with all of our imperfections, flaws, and vulnerabilities. Self-compassion allows us to be with ourselves in moments of pain or difficulty, without judgment or resistance. It enables us to accept ourselves as we are, to acknowledge our struggles without identifying with them. In this space of acceptance, we open the door to healing and transformation. Just as we would offer compassion to a friend who is struggling, we must also offer it to ourselves. When we remember that we are already whole, already enlightened, we no longer need to judge ourselves harshly or strive for some idealized version of ourselves. We can simply be in the fullness of our being. A powerful practice of integration involves embracing surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of letting go of the need to control or manipulate our experiences. The ego loves control. It thrives on certainty and the ability to shape outcomes according to its desires. However, when we attempt to control life, we are resisting the natural flow of existence. Life is a dynamic, ever-changing force, and trying to control it leads to frustration and suffering. Surrender, in this context, is the willingness to release the illusion of control and allow life to unfold as it will. It is not passive resignation, but an active alignment with the flow of the universe. When we surrender, we trust that everything is unfolding as it should, even if we cannot see the bigger picture. Surrender allows us to step out of the narrative of struggle and control, and instead to step into a state of grace. It is in this state of surrender that we can fully embrace the truth of our enlightenment, for when we stop resisting, we begin to experience the beauty of life as it is, in its perfect unfolding. This process of integration also requires us to release our attachment to outcomes. We are often driven by the belief that happiness or fulfillment lies in some future event, whether it is a promotion at work, a relationship, or some other goal. We think that once we achieve this thing, we will finally be at peace, we will finally be happy, we will finally be whole. But the truth is, there is no future in which we are more enlightened than we are in this very moment. When we attach our sense of worth or happiness to a future outcome, we are perpetuating the illusion that we are incomplete or lacking in some way. To integrate the truth that we are already enlightened, we must let go of the need for external validation or future achievements. This does not mean that we stop striving for goals or pursuing our passions, but rather that we do so from a place of inner fulfillment rather than a place of lack. When we begin to see that we are already whole, already enlightened, the pursuit of external goals becomes a natural expression of our inner truth, rather than an attempt to fill a void. In this way, the process of remembering our enlightenment transforms our relationship with the world. We no longer see ourselves as separate from the world, struggling to survive or seeking external validation. We recognize that the world is a reflection of our inner state, and as we align ourselves with our true nature, the world around us begins to shift. We become more at peace with the challenges that arise, knowing that they are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth and awakening. We begin to experience life as a divine play, where we are both the actors and the audience, both the creators and the creations. As we integrate these truths into our daily lives, we begin to experience a profound shift in our consciousness. We start to embody the state of enlightenment, not as a distant goal, but as a living, breathing reality that infuses every moment. We remember that we are the divine, expressing itself through human form, and that enlightenment is not a state to be attained, but a state to be realized. In the quiet of the moment, when all the noise of the world fades away, there lies a truth so simple and yet so profound that it is almost too easy to dismiss. This truth is not hidden in sacred texts or buried in esoteric teachings, though it has been whispered in the halls of wisdom throughout the ages. It is not to be discovered in some distant land or achieved after years of arduous practice. It is here, right now, within you, always present, waiting to be recognized. The truth is this: you are already enlightened. You have always been. You just forgot. The journey, then, is not one of striving for something outside of yourself, but of remembering. You are not a seeker chasing something distant or unattainable. You are a wanderer returning home, uncovering the light that has always been within. The path of enlightenment is not one of accumulation or ascent, but of surrender and simplicity. It is the journey of letting go, of releasing the layers of illusion that have obscured your inherent wholeness. The truth of who you are is not something you must create or fabricate. It is something you must simply recognize. This understanding, this realization, is the key to a profound shift in consciousness. When we awaken to the truth that we are already whole, already connected to the divine, we stop seeking outside of ourselves for validation, for approval, for fulfillment. We begin to live in alignment with the divine flow that is always present, always guiding, always available. Our relationships, our work, and our interactions become expressions of this divine connection, as we move through life not as separate individuals, but as expressions of the one universal consciousness that binds us all. The call to action, then, is not to strive for something we do not have, but to release the illusion that we are separate from the divine, separate from one another, or separate from the truth of our own being. It is to awaken to the realization that the very fabric of existence is made of love, and we are woven into it, inseparable and eternal. As you move through life, remember this truth. You are already enlightened. You are not on a journey to become enlightened. You are on a journey to remember the light that has always been within you. This journey begins in the present moment. There is no need to wait for a future event or a special circumstance to awaken. Every moment is an opportunity to remember, to bring your awareness back to the truth of your being. You do not need to search for enlightenment. It is already here, inside you, in the quiet spaces between thoughts, in the stillness of your breath, in the love you feel when you connect with another soul. The world around you is a mirror, reflecting the state of your inner being. When you recognize your own enlightenment, you will see it reflected in every person, in every experience, in every moment. This is the true nature of reality, a vast, interconnected web of consciousness in which we are all one. We are not separate beings living in isolation. We are expressions of the same divine energy, each of us a unique manifestation of the infinite. The illusion of separation is the veil that clouds our perception, but once it is lifted, we begin to see the world through the eyes of the divine, and everything becomes imbued with meaning and purpose. The most profound transformation happens not when we gain something new, but when we release the false constructs that keep us trapped in illusion. We must let go of the belief that we are incomplete, that we are somehow lacking, that we must strive for more to be worthy. When we let go of these illusions, we begin to see ourselves as we truly are, perfect, whole, and complete. We begin to embody the light that we have always been, and we become the living expression of the divine presence in the world. So, what now? How do we live this truth in our daily lives? The answer is simple: by being present. The more we bring our awareness into the here and now, the more we align ourselves with the truth of our being. Mindfulness, self-compassion, surrender. These are the practices that bring us back to our center, that allow us to remember who we are. The key is not to look outside of ourselves for the answers, but to look within, to trust the wisdom of our hearts, and to allow the divine light to shine through us. As you step into this new awareness, you may find that the world around you begins to shift. Your relationships may deepen, your work may feel more fulfilling, and your sense of peace and contentment may expand. This is not because you have acquired something new, but because you are living in alignment with your true nature. The world reflects the energy you put out, and when you are in touch with your own enlightenment, you naturally create a world that mirrors that truth. This journey is not always easy. The ego will resist, and the illusions will fight to maintain their grip. But remember, the ego is not who you are. It is a false construct that has been built over time, layer by layer. As you begin to peel away these layers, you will encounter resistance, but you will also encounter freedom. And when you reach the point where you no longer identify with the false self, where you remember your true nature, you will experience a profound peace that transcends all understanding. Enlightenment is not a far-off ideal. It is the truth of who you are. It is the light that has always been within you, waiting for you to see it. It is not something to be achieved. It is something to be remembered. And once you remember, you will see the world in an entirely new light, a light that shines from within, illuminating everything around you. So, as you continue on this journey, remember, you are already enlightened. You have always been. You have only forgotten. But now, the time has come to remember. This is your call to transformation. This is your invitation to step into the fullness of who you are, to embrace your inherent divinity, and to live as the enlightened being you were always meant to be. And so, the journey continues, not as a quest for something elusive, but as a process of unveiling, of remembering, of being. This is the truth of your being. You are already enlightened. You just forgot.